But I was plateauing. So I was doing all the exercises he was telling me, like diligently, and the pain was getting really bad. And like everything came to a halt. This was at the end of July. I had to cancel my bike trip, and I could hardly walk.
Cool. Well, on to the fun part. The fun part is I was just about to tell you before I made you change up all your lighting, and I was just about to tell you that when I got your message, I was reading it to my wife. And as I got to the part where it said, I'm able to play with my kids again after like basically watching them play and not being able to play with them, being like in pain, laying on a couch, I started tearing up a little bit. And my wife was like, what's going on? Are you okay? And I was like, yeah, it's just very sweet and touching. And so I wanted to just give you an opportunity. You already sort of sent me the email version, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to share your story, what you've been dealing with your hips, and how the FAI Fix program helped you with your hips.
Sure. So I guess I've had lower back pain for many years in isolation. So I didn't have any other aches or pains anywhere else. So it was treated as a lower back, pain issue that I went to various, specialists with over the years, and never really had anything treat me that worked. So just kind of learned to live with it. And then just this past summer, the pain was worsening in my back. So I was seeing a physio for that. And then I was training because I was planning a summer bike trip with my boyfriend. So we were doing a lot of bike training. And then, sort of at the end of a long ride, I started to have pain in my adductor. And it was pain I'd never experienced before. And it was subtle at first, but then the next day, it became more intense. So I saw my physio about that, and he felt it was a groin issue. I'd never had that before, so I presumed that that's what it was. So that's where I first started to have some odd pain. And then it was spreading kind of across my iliacus over to my outside hip. And I would be telling him, like, I'm feeling it in my hip now and up here. And so after kind of multiple sessions with him, and his treatment wasn't making me improve a lot, it was him that kind of started talking to me about FAI, which I'd never heard of before. And he said, let's just get an X-ray and let's just find out. So sure enough, I came back with that diagnosis, and also osteo as well, which came back from that X-ray. So then he started to adjust a little bit of his treatment, but I was plateauing. So I was doing all the exercises he was telling me, like diligently, and the pain was getting really bad. And like everything came to a halt. This was at the end of July. I had to cancel my bike trip, and I could hardly walk. So just walking through a grocery store was excruciating. Everything hurt. Like, it was intense pain I'd never had before. So after kind of months with him treating me for that, I got an MRI done, which again, reiterated the FAI diagnosis, and and that I also had a labral tear. So so I kind of put my trust in my physio, but I was really plateauing, and I wasn't improving very much. So I was getting very, very frustrated and discouraged. So I started to do my own research. And this was this physio is very well known in Ottawa. He has a very good reputation. So I kind of felt bad about resorting to my own research. Like, what do I know? But then I came across your program, and I started reading about it and watching the videos. And it was really like a revelation for me, because the stories I was hearing, what you were saying and Matt was saying, in the videos and in the correspondence online and stuff, um, I could see myself in it, and I could relate to the stories, and I said, that's me, like that's exactly how I feel. And is my back pain really linked to this hip issue? And so it was all just like I was getting really excited, because for the first time I could kind of identify with what I was seeing and reading about, and then it gave me hope. So that was the first time where tissue work was communicated to me. My physio had never mentioned it. And so I said, okay, well, I've got yoga balls at home and I can start doing some of these things. So I started to do that. I booked a massage therapist at my physio clinic to do deep tissue work. And it just took off from there. And then doing your exercises, because I enrolled in your program and started working on the flexibility, adding different exercises my physio hadn't recommended, started sort of adding ankle weights and doing some, lightweight work at that point, because I was still in a lot of pain. Um, and I could just see and feel the progression. And I would go back to my massage therapist and he'd say, wow, your flexibility is opening up. Like you were much tighter last week, or um, and then just gradually, with sort of the dedication to the work, the strengthening, flexibility, tissue work, the pain is subsiding. It's still there. As I said, this is only over, really since July. So not a ton of time has passed. So I know I still have more work to do. Um, but I'm able to introduce new activities again, simple things like going for a walk for pleasure, um, which I hadn't been able to do in months. um, Returning to swimming in the pool, to skiing, to um, ski touring. I'm just able to do all these things that I thought months ago would take me years to get to, because that's how much pain I was in. Um, and during those initial few months, it like when I relayed to you that I would watch my kids play, literally I had to lie down on the couch. And in the first month or so, it was ice that would give me some relief. And then I switched from ice to heat, and the heat would give me some relief. And it was just lying down. If I was out because I had to pick up something at the grocery store, I would have to come back and lie down, because the even just driving in the car was excruciating. Just having my legs in that position, hinged at the hip, it just was so unpleasant. So to go from that, you know, over a very, in my mind, really a short period of time, from that to, I was ski touring up a ski hill twice last weekend. And it like I can see the progress so clearly, and I can see how much more I want to take this even. So I've started to work with a strengthening coach. So now because I want to be able to do weights, but do them properly so I don't hurt myself. So I'm meeting with him now once a week, and I'm building myself a home gym in my basement so I can start doing, squats and deadlifts and using all that equipment that I'm starting to collect. Um, so I'm excited to continue to progress and take it to a level, that I didn't know I could get to.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just odd. I mean, because I didn't know as of July that I had a hip issue. I'd never experienced pain there before. So in my mind before that, why would I spend time strengthening my hips and stretching them when I never had an issue before? It just didn't cross my mind. I was a fit person. I was active. I did all sorts of things. So I didn't think I was neglecting my body in any way. I thought I was actually doing the opposite. I thought I was looking after it and keeping it strong. Right. So to be debilitated so quickly, like just a grinding halt with no sign of any hip pain prior was just so shocking to me. Now, I think my back was an early indicator that there were issues. But of course, I never made, or no one else made that association that this could be linked to something else. But hip pain, had never had hip pain in my life um, until July, and it came on like a freight train.
Yeah.
Um, so it's processing that that first of all you have a hip issue. It's like what, and then how to treat it and how to deal with it. And certainly, what I've learned and I find very empowering is that this recovery is in my hands. Really, I don't. And before, I think part of the frustration was I was entrusting a physio with my care. Yes, he would give me exercises to do, of course, and I did them. But I felt like he was in control a lot of my recovery. And so I've taken that back, right? I'm like, no, I'm in charge here. I can control it. If I miss a few days of exercises, I start to feel my hip a bit more. And I'm like, and I know why, because I haven't stretched in a few days. I haven't, you know, used my yoga balls and done some tissue work. And so I'm not reassuring, quite frankly, that I'm in charge. I can do this on my own. And I know what to do. And I'm learning to listen to my body and respond to it and address it. And
The part that you were saying is about taking the power back into your own
yeah,
hand. Not
yeah,
that not that you need to take the power back from the physios, but it's like you need to at least be advocating for yourself and taking some of the responsibility. It can be a partnership, but it can't be all them and 0% you.
sure, yeah. And I certainly felt it was the other way around in those initial months that my recovery was in their hands to treat me. And it's unsettling, right? Because you want to move at a different pace or you're not getting the progress you want. And I kind of felt defeated. So by learning about this whole health issue and what to do about it, I feel like I have the reins in my hand now. Like I can do this. And I'll still, get deep tissue work on occasion and maybe see my physio here and there, but it's not going to be like they're not going to be the center of my recovery. It's me. And I find that very comforting.
Yeah.
I can do, yeah,
Yeah. I'm super happy that I also got that message kind of early on. I went to the guy who helped me the most with my hip impingement issues. And he told me on like day one, he's like, this isn't going to be, I do 100% of the work and I just fix you. This is going to be, you come to me, I teach you some cool stuff. I do some great work on you. And then you have to go do the other 50 or more percent of the job. And I really
yeah,
took that to heart early on. And it's much more empowering because you feel like you actually get a say. The power is in your hands. It's not just like, well, I pray that this other person can fix me. It's like, okay, I'm going to explore and learn about my own body. So
yeah,
I'm glad
yeah,
that happened to you as well. There's two
yeah.
other things that I found really fascinating about what you were sharing. Well, maybe like three things. One was the difficulty of even realizing that it was a hip problem because there was no hip pain in the beginning. It was just all back pain for you. And the same for me. It was all in my SI joint. And it was always back injuries that happened to me. And like, yeah, I could tell that that hip didn't move quite as well, maybe as the other one. But even that wasn't totally at a conscious level. It was just like, I've got some back pain from time to time, and I think my hips are fine until I started to get more in touch with my body. And then I started to see where I was immobile, where my hips were stuck, where they wouldn't rotate. That's when I started doing stretching and yoga and finding out, oh, there's a lot of yoga positions that I can do on one side, but not the other side. Oh, maybe my back compensates to avoid that tight hip. And that's why it keeps getting irritated.
Hmm.
It's almost like the low back is the canary in the coal mine. It's the early warning sign that something else is not moving as well as it could. So I thought
Yep.
that was really fascinating. And then the other thing that I thought was really fascinating is that you did all the right steps in the beginning and it still didn't get you where most people would hope that they would get to. And what I mean is you got the x-ray, you got the MRI, you went to the doctors, they sent you to the physical therapist was working on you. That's the checklist. That's the process that you're supposed to follow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it didn't get you where you wanted to be. And so I'm
Yeah.
curious, what was different about what you started to do in the FAI Fix than what you were doing in physical therapy?
Certainly the tissue work that kick-started my recovery at a much faster rate than anything prior.
Mhm.
So with the exercises I was given, then with the tissue work, with more strengthening too, um, that kind of combination is what made all the difference.
Mm. Yeah.
Like it was very quickly after that that the progression started that I was craving for because I had plateaued up until then. I wasn't improving. He got me to a certain point, and he certainly was the one who raised FAI as a possibility for me. So, I'm grateful to the discovery of this that may not have happened otherwise, or maybe it would have taken longer. So, he certainly got me to a certain point, which I appreciate, but I needed to take it somewhere else, which I did. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very common experience that without using all three steps of the TSR system, the tissue work plus the stretching plus the strengthening in a kind of harmonious, coordinated way, something's always lacking. Like if people just go do yoga and they're just stretching, 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 that doesn't quite seem to do it for most people. Or if they're just, some physical therapists will do a lot of strengthening with their clients. It's just strengthen those glutes until you're blue in the face and more clamshells and more core training. Your core is weak. Your core is weak. It's just glutes and core for everything. If it's happening, something's going wrong in the lower body. And so it's just strengthen, strengthen, strengthen. But tissue work gets left out so often. And that does seem to really sort of jumpstart progress for a lot of people. It's almost like I call it, and I don't mean to be like salesy or markety when I say this, but I do say that tissue work is the closest thing that I've ever found to something that immediately kind of takes my pain away. Stretching doesn't seem to just take my pain away. Strengthening doesn't seem to just take my pain away. But if I can first take my pain away with some really good massage, some really good tissue work, then the stretching becomes more effective. Because if I would just go to a yoga class without doing tissue work, stretching kind of hurt. It was like painful and kind of like, ow. And if I tried to lift weights, because I was a trained strength and conditioning coach, without first freeing up my hip joint mobility with the tissue work and the stretching, then I was putting all this strength and fitness on top of a dysfunctional foundation. My joints weren't moving as they should. And therefore the strength training can be a little bit riskier if your joint mobility isn't good. But when you bring all of those together and you're first freeing up the tissues, if there's some knots and some scar tissue, and then just getting some touching your end ranges. You don't have to go super deep in stretches. It's not like stretching deeper makes you healthier either. But knowing what the corners of your hip feels like, going and checking your end ranges, your internal, external rotation, abduction, adduction, touching those end ranges, you start to develop a better relationship with your hips. And then you're less likely to sort of push them too far. It's like their limits more. So the stretching can be really helpful. And then the strengthening, which is something that you're now taking on at an even higher level, because you said you just started working with a strength coach. It helps to kind of cement in. You improve the mobility with the tissue work and the stretching, and then you ingrain and cement good movement patterns, deadlifting, squatting, lunging, functional movements against a resistance. And that helps to build the most resilient, robust body versus if you were just doing one of those three kind of pillars. So I'm glad that you've discovered those things, and I'm glad that you're continuing the education, like you said. And the other thing that I love about your story is it's very real. It's not like some marketing hype where we say she bought our program and we waved a magic wand and poof, everything was better and she never has to worry about anything ever again. No, you improved a lot. You went from being on a couch, not being able to walk, not being able to ski, and now you can do those things. And there's still improvements that you want to make and that you will make. And what's great is you're still on that sort of, I'm the one who needs to do this work. I'm the one who needs to continue to being educated. And you rely on mentors, coaches, physical therapists, massage therapists, strength coaches to assist you in the process, but you're still driving the car, which I think is great.
Work, so if you don't do it, you can only blame yourself. So you have to set the time aside, and so I'm learning and figuring that out, right? When and where in my schedule to best fit the various things I need to do.
Yeah. I'm curious, how old are your kids, and did they notice when all this was going on for you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. They're 8 and 9. They were getting used to me not playing with them, right? Just sitting around, not playing basketball in the driveway, not going for bike rides, not going for walks. And it happened in the summer. So, we didn't do any nature walks starting in August or September, which is like the most beautiful months here to do that. We didn't do anything like that, nothing.
Yeah.
So then when I was able to start, and really it was only in November, I would say, where I started to experiment with some walking, just easing my way back in. So they were like, "Mommy, you shouldn't be doing this. You should be assuming your regular position and lying down on the couch." It's like, no, no, no. I'm feeling better. I think I can do this.
Mm.
So they were used to me being immobile, and then were sort of bewildered when I was starting to move out of that kind
Yeah.
of stagnant state. So
Wow. That's
yeah,
beautiful.
I'm back, right?
Yeah, that's
So
awesome. I don't have kids, like I told you at the beginning of this call, but for some reason it really touches my heart to think about, uh you're a young woman, and so to not be able to move at what feels like a young kind of athletic age can be really scary. And I imagine, I can imagine my thoughts in that situation would be like, is this how life's going to be from now on? Is this like no more playing with the kids, no more being active, no more
mm,
enjoying the Canadian beautiful wilderness? So I'm glad that you've
uh,
found your way out of
in
that.
pain, your mind goes there, right? Like, is my ski season ruined? When am I going to be able to like roughhouse with my kids again and go for walks? Like that's the that unknown element it adds to your anxiety, right? Of, I don't know when this will end, because I've never experienced this before. I've never been through this intense pain before.
Mhm,
So like in my mind, it was years away at the time.
mhm,
And I was thinking this could take years.
mhm, mhm. Out of curiosity, did the doctors or your physical therapist recommend surgery, or did they say, let's just wait and see? Or what was that conversation like?
When I was asking my physio about FAI, because I'd never heard of it before, he did mention that surgery can be as a possible outcome. And I said, what? I was devastated that that could happen. And I never, again, for a problem that I had never been a problem for me before, the thought of, so going to surgery was just, it was shocking. Now he said, that's worst case scenario, and we have to see how you improve with your treatment. And so he never positioned it as the only option. He said it could be an option if all of this work you're doing doesn't work and
Yeah,
doesn't make you move.
yeah,
So
that's good. That always seemed, in my sort of very simple logic, that seemed like the natural progression. It's like surgery is an option, but it's the last option. There's a lot of things that you can try before that. Um, but I think the one key caveat there is, what is all the stuff that you could try before surgery? Because most people would assume that it's physical therapy or maybe yoga, if they're kind of into that yoga thing. Like, what do you try before surgery? It's like chiropractor, yoga, acupuncture, physical therapy, and then you start getting a little more
drug,
drugs, yeah, painkillers, just numb it out. Um,
yeah,
but I think the real key, and why we keep making more and more of these videos, is people still don't know there's this whole world of TSR, mobility work, tissue work. What is targeted tissue work? Most people don't. I think some people have now heard of like foam rolling or maybe rolling on a ball a little bit, But obviously, if
Yeah.
you've seen the FAI Fix program, we go way nerdy deep with all the different ways you can do tissue work
Mhm.
on your body and strengthen your body and stretch your body as well. So it's like there's this whole world that's unknown to people with hip problems. And I think that if they try physical therapy for 6 to 8 weeks and it doesn't work, oh, well, surgery time. And that scares me because I know that there's this mountain of things that they could explore. So we'll just keep making YouTube videos about this stuff till I'm like 80 years old and people have heard of targeted tissue work.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a big advocate of it now, telling everyone I know about it. So I
Yeah.
always thought hip issues were like a geriatric issue.
Yeah.
No one young has a hip issue. Like no one. It's an old person's problem, right? So
Imagine running into it when you were 26.
you can imagine.
It was frightening.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to ask you one last question because I'm
Mm.
sure there's many other women your age, men your age, who all of a sudden seemingly find out they have this hip problem. They go to the doctor and they get an x-ray or an MRI. They get some orthopedic tests done on their hips. And the person says, you've got FAI, you've got a labral tear, which you do, which I do. You've got bone cysts, you've got all these problems in your hips. It can seem really overwhelming and scary when you get that news.
Mhm.
And knowing that just, a short 8-week stint of physical therapy isn't gonna cut it for most people. What's like the one or two things that you would recommend someone does if they just got that news and they had no idea that that was even a thing, and then they find out that they have it?
To be hopeful, I think it's so devastating that you panic, you worry. So to be hopeful that with hard work and dedication to your recovery, you can overcome it. You can resume your normal activities and um, so I think if you know, we're back in July, that would be the advice I would give myself. And to, as you say, use those three areas, the tissue work, the strengthening, the flexibility, and that combination is what's going to, make your recovery as fast and as solid as possible. Because I think if you cheat yourself out of one of those areas, as you say, right, you'll feel it, you'll know it, your hip will know it. So, and yeah, just stick with the program, stick with it, and you'll see progress. Like because at first, I wasn't sure either, kind of tackling the FAI fix, but just everything I heard gave me hope that if I do what all these other people said worked for them, I'm hopeful that this will work for me too. Given the state I was in, it wasn't like this was um, marginal pain. This was debilitating pain. I was flat out really, and went from that to resuming my normal activities in quite a short period of time. So I never thought that would happen. I thought that it would take literally years,
Yeah.
given where I was at. So I found that remarkable that you can recover quite quickly.
Yeah.
This,
Awesome.
yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. I'm always so grateful when I have these calls with people because it's like you said, like if one person can do it, so can someone else. Like I remember hearing that very early on in my life in the context of like being successful in business or in life. It's just like, oh, if one person can do it, another human can. You just have to follow the steps that they took and you can
Mhm,
probably produce some similar results. And
mhm,
I think that's just really encouraging to think about because sometimes you think like, I can't do anything. I can't come out of this problem. I can never make money. I can never do this. I can never do that. But the simple fact is, if there's other people that have done it, there's a good chance you can too. So I think that's a great note to end on. And I'm so thankful that you got on this call with me. I appreciate you. And when I come to Canada, we'll go on a nice hike in the Rocky Mountains together with healthy hips.
Fantastic. Anyway, thank you so much for this program and what you do. You really have made a huge difference for me, and I'm sure all these other people too. So thank you so much.